I want to start off as always by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Salutations to the Akim there who are fighting the good fight of faith, and to the rest of the believers, the men, women, and children whom the Lord has foreordained, to be a part of this fight and to ultimately receive salvation through Yahushai's sacrifice. Shalom. This lesson is pretty much going to be focused on around the idea of, choosing the spirit as much as possible over the flesh, and just warning about, it's something that we know, but we have to get into it every now and then to remind both ourselves and those who listen to us, choosing the flesh, is a slippery slope, choosing to comfort yourself or choosing to indulge in any, pleasures of the flesh is a slippery slope. You can choose, to satisfy a particular desire, and then before you know it, you spend days, just going after one lust or one desire to the next, one craving to the next, and you completely, the more time you spend, satisfying your flesh, going after the flesh, is the further away from the spirit, your actions take you, and the harder it is to dig out, of that momentum that you've given yourself in the flesh to go back to the spirit, and likewise, on the contrary, if you continually do, spiritual acts, reading, doing lessons, praying, things that feed the spirit, right, that creates also a momentum in the spirit, right, and it creates a guard for you, that it becomes more difficult to indulge in the pleasures of the flesh, so let's read here in Galatians chapter 5 verse 16. It says, "This I say then, walk ye in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lusts of the flesh." Because if you're constantly doing things that are of a spiritual nature, that are feeding the inward man, then that creates a guard around you, right? A guard of faith, a guard of temperance, a guard of knowledge and understanding, that makes it more difficult, for you to do the things that are mindful of the flesh. For the flesh lusted against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would, And brothers, and even sisters can testify to that when you succumb to the flesh, if it's even just a craving for something unhealthy to eat, and you give in to that craving leads you to then, it compounds over time. It leads you to do another thing for the flesh, then another, and before you know it, you spend days just chasing after cravings, passions, impulses, and then it becomes harder to just break that momentum and say, you know what, I need to recalibrate, I need to re-examine myself, I need to get back into the spirit, so it's a constant fight, to beat off or to ward off, going after these empty cravings, because they really don't fulfill you. All right, this is Romans 13 verse 14. "But put ye on the Lord Yahushai, and make not for provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof." Right, and this warning comes as Paul tells us to be ready for the day of the Lord, which we know is about to come to pass, and in that day you don't want to be in the mindset or in the habit of continually, fulfilling the lusts and the cravings and the desires of the flesh. Because if you are in that mindset, if you are in that momentum, that fleshly momentum, then the time of Jacob's trouble, the hour of temptation, will take you, right? It will consume you, because you will make decisions based on wanting to keep comfort in the flesh. But if you have that momentum of the spirit, where you're continually doing spiritual acts, you're walking by faith, fear of the Heavenly Father, temperance, wisdom and understanding, right? That momentum in the spirit, right, is going to take you into that day of the Lord, right? Having a mindset of, you know what, I'm not trying to save myself. I'm trying to do the thing that is right. I'm trying to make it on one of them chariots to be in the presence of Yahushai, and the elect angels and the elect men and women. That's what I want, Then that's the right mindset to be in, right? The word provision here, I'm just going to look it up, and then we can end there.
Strong's G 4307. Pranoia. Pranoia.
which means forethought, provident care or supply, provision, right? Forethought, providential care to make provision for a thing. If you look up that word forethought, right, it means anticipation, careful consideration of what will be necessary or may happen in the future, right? That goes into cares or anxieties or worries. You know, what's gonna happen next? What do I need to put in place to make sure I'm good if this happens or if that happens? You know, the word provision here in the dictionary, right? It says the act of providing or supplying something, an amount or thing supplied, a condition or requirement, supply with food, drink, equipment, especially for a journey. Set aside an amount in an organization's account for a known liability. So you're pretty much preparing, you know. So that's pretty much what I wanted to bring out, you know. Hopefully this was edifying and exhorting to the spirit. Until next time, shalom.